The end of September is here, which means we got to do September early Oscar predictions. I was going to start this later, but I figured that this is the right month to start my early Oscar predictions because fall festivals just came to an end. So I think that's when we have our best chance because you got all those reactions to all those indie movies, some big movies coming out of the fall festivals, TIFF, Telluride, Venice. I feel like this is the best time because we got so many more movies to see, especially me. I haven't seen any of the fall festival movies, just seen the reactions. But Oscars coming up in March, so we're getting there. This is the time where I'm going to make my predictions, what I want to win, what I think will win. But maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Leave your predictions down below in the comments. But let's get to our first category here. We got Best Animated Film, a category that the Oscars and the Academy disrespect a lot. They always put this one first because they never really think this is true cinema or true art, even though it really is. You've seen the films this year that have come out, and they're amazing. Across the Spider-Verse is my number one. I don't think anything is beating this. Even when we get to later in January, February, when we get really close to the Oscars, I don't see anything beating this film just because how good it is, how grand in scale it is. It's like one of the best sequels of all time, in my opinion. And the animation work is so flawless. Everything that's going on in every single scene, every shot of this movie, it looks like a painting. And I feel like this movie is the one to beat, but I don't think anyone will beat it. This one was my favorite film for so long this year. I saw it so many times. I think I've seen it like 10 times already this year because on physical. But Oppenheimer did beat that. But Across the Spider-Verse held that remark for a long time. But in my number 2 spot, I got The Boy and the Heron right now. Miyazaki's latest film. It did screen at the fall festivals. I saw some reactions. I was expecting greater reactions for this movie. I didn't see too many amazing reactions for this one. I saw some great reception, some good reception, maybe some lukewarm reception, because a lot of people said there's a lot going on, too much going on at sometimes, and there's just a lot to follow, so maybe it's not the most concise film. So I think that this film is going to stay at my number 2 spot, and Across the Spider-Verse is still going to beat it, even though Boy and the Heron from the trailer looks absolutely fantastic. I don't think it has a chance to beat Across the Spider-Verse at this point. And there's no really narrative for it, because supposedly it was going to be Miyazaki's film, which would have been its narrative, but apparently now Miyazaki is going to be making more films after this, so this one really doesn't have a big narrative to go for it. So I don't see it really going into that number 1 spot anytime, maybe after I see it. But still, I feel like Across the Spider-Verse has the lock at number 1. Number 3 was kind of hard for me, so I put Elemental because it's the one I have seen. I think it's a great movie. I think the animation is magnificent. I think it's some of Pixar's best animation work since Soul. Soul was great animation, but I love the look of the city and Elemental and all the different elements walking around. Thought it was great. My number 4 spot, I put the Chicken Run sequel, Dawn of the Nugget. I feel like the Academy does like this kind of movie. I feel like audiences will also like this. I have never seen the first one. I did like the trailer for the second one, so I probably will give both of them a watch when they both come out soon. I'll probably watch the first one soon. But yeah, I think Chicken Run, the second one, can get a nomination at 5. I also was kind of split, so I put Team and Team Mutant Mayhem just because it kind of has like an animation style like Across the Spider-Verse, but it's more of like a nitty-gritty feel, like crayon or sketch. And I feel like this movie has a great story. I feel like everyone liked it. I didn't really see anyone hating it. I feel like everyone liked it. Maybe some people liked it more than the others. I felt like it was really good. I didn't think it was amazing, but I still think it can get into that 5 spot. Now, more in the race movies are 6, 7, and 8, the ones that I put down there just because they might pop into the top 5 soon. Number 6, I got Super Mario Bros. The only reason why I put it in the race is that because it was a massive success, made $1 billion. I'm not sure how many Illumination movies have gotten into the nominations for Best Animated Film, so I didn't really put it in the top 5 because of that reason. I don't think the animation is anything that spectacular. I feel like the top 5 just works so much better animation-wise and are so much more of an accomplishment. 7, I put Wish. I'm just not vibing with the animation too much. It has warmed up to me a little bit, but until I see the movie, I'm not putting it in that top 5 because the animation style is a little too clunky for me. I don't know about the story. I don't know how great the film is. No reactions have come out. And 8, I put Nimona. Even though I think Nimona is a great film and I think a great animated film, I just feel like no one has talked about it much after like 2 weeks after the film came out on Netflix. That's one of Netflix's big issues and why a lot of their films are lost in the year, is because they release so many different films and Nimona really had no time to breathe. That's why I don't really see anyone really talking about this film anymore. Even though people talked about it when it first released, I have hardly seen anyone talk about it now. And, I still see people talking about Elemental, Spider-Verse, and many other films, TMNT, and it's been months since those came out. And I think that Nimona really would have done better if Netflix would have gone for like a bigger push with this film, or maybe a theatrical release. So that's why I'm put on 8. It's almost at the race, but I feel like it could get in there. But right now I have Across the Spider-Verse at the first spot. Next up, our predictions is the biggest category. Probably it's Best Picture. Best Picture is always one of the biggest categories. I really do like how there's 10 nominations. I used to hate it, but I feel like we have so many great films this year, and some other years, that there has to be 10. The competition is tough with even 10. You'll see in my predictions right here, the competition is really tough right here. But at the number 1 spot, I got Oppenheimer in here. Oppenheimer is just a massive film, some of the best filmmaking I've seen in like the past probably 10 years. It's just a massive achievement of like storytelling, craftsmanship, all across the board. Christopher Nolan knocked to the park. Hoyte van Hoytema, Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr. Such a massive film, and I feel like it was such a big theater event with that and Barbie, and I feel like every single critic and maybe audience member really found something to like there and even love. I didn't really see any really bad reviews that just weren't laughable. Some reviews you see are pretty laughable, but honestly, I think I saw very positive reviews for this movie all across the board. It's my favorite film of the year. I feel like it's the best film of the decade so far. One of Christopher Nolan's best, maybe like 1 or 2 for me. So I feel like it's just going to win at that point. I don't know if anything's going to unseat it, but it's just a huge film, and just the story of Oppenheimer is just very big. It's a 3-hour epic making over $900 million. I feel like the Academy will take that into consideration, because they kind of take narratives into consideration, like with Everything Everywhere. But Everything Everywhere was also an amazing film. But I feel like if you put Everything Everywhere in this lineup, it would be a hard competition for those films. But yeah, I got Oppenheimer in the first place right now. Second place, I got Poor Things. Poor Things just screened at the Telluride Film Festival, I think Venice too, maybe. But man, the reactions I've seen from that film are simply outstanding. Yorgos Lanthimos is behind this. He did The Favorite, and he did The Lobster, Killing of the Sacred Deer. I think The Favorite is really amazing. I feel like it kind of got robbed when it came out for the Oscars. But Poor Things has been getting some really rave reactions. Everyone is really dying over this film. Some people are saying it's the best of the year, best of the decade, and I'm very surprised. Yorgos is a person where sometimes his films don't connect with a lot of people. His films usually connect with just a small group of people, but I've seen Poor Things connect to literally like 95% of the people. On Metacritic, I think it's still in the high 90s, maybe low 90s, and that's kind of unheard of, even though it's only screening to a small number of people. It's very unheard of to have a movie still in the 90s on Metacritic, even after having like 30, 40 reviews, and it's in like the 90s on Rotten Tomatoes too, which is large, man. For a film like this weird, if you've seen the trailer, it's a weird trailer. It's like a Frankenstein kind of story. Female Frankenstein. She's like exploring stuff. She's like a child brain. She's exploring sex for the first time. The whole world, how like different things work. And it's kind of like a very female-centric story, you could say. If you kind of compare this and Barbie, I think it kind of works on two fronts. Barbie is a story about a female also, but it's kind of like a comedic tone for a majority of the movie. Some of it's a little dark and sad. But Poor Things, I've seen some reviews, people say it's very dark, and it has like the dark comedy of a Yorgos film, because Yorgos goes for that dark comedy in The Favorite and The Lobster. But people saying that Poor Things is a very sad film, very dark themes, because it is rated R. It has a lot of nudity and sex, as I said. So a lot of people are saying that this film is really sad. Emma Stone captures the performance of Bella Baxter in a magnificent way. And we'll get to really the actor categories very soon. But man, the reactions I've heard from this are just outstanding. You see the poster right behind my chair. I did buy the poster. Haven't seen the film yet. I don't care. That poster is my favorite poster of the year. If I don't like the film, I'll still keep the poster because it's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, everyone's saying this is a sci-fi kind of story, and I'm a sucker for sci-fi. The trailer sold me. You can say the trailer's weird, but man, some of that trailer looks absolutely fantastic. The production design of the movie looks killer, but we got to move on. Number 3 is Killers of the Flower Moon, directed by Martin Scorsese. This premiered at Cannes all the way back in spring slash the start of summer. I think it is screening again this month. And before it has its official going wide in October. So we will see some more reactions from that before it does officially go wide. And I am interested in seeing that because the first reactions out of Cannes were almost all positive. And everyone's saying it's some of Martin Scorsese's best work since like The Wolf of Wall Street, which I guess I can agree with because I think that The Irishman, I think that The Irishman is great, but I feel like it's just too long. It's a 4-hour movie. Killers of the Flower Moon takes it back a little bit, a 3.5. I still think that might be a little too long. We'll see on the story because I feel like runtime always has to do with the story. You know, if the story needs that long runtime, it should take that long runtime. Leonardo DiCaprio, people are saying that this is his best performance of all time, which I don't know if I believe that, but I still haven't seen the film. But I'll probably update this when I do see the film in October because I'm definitely going to see it. I see almost every film. I'm very excited for it. But yeah, I had this at 2, but after the great reactions from Poor Things, I moved this down to 3 because I don't know if the Academy will want this film to win something like Best Picture. It really is, it's an interesting one to think about because it takes on this really dark true story about the Osage and all the murders that happen. If you haven't read up on it, I do suggest you read up on those stories before seeing the movie because you can probably know what happens more and understand it a little bit more. But yeah, it does have some sort of a narrative, but you know, I'd still stay in that top 3. I feel like my top 3 isn't really movable at the moment. I don't think anyone will move down to the 4 or 5 spot because those are some amazing films with some amazing reactions. But at the number 4 spot, I got The Holdovers. You know, this is Alexander Payne's new movie with Paul Giamatti about the kid that just stays at school with like the mean teacher. And Divine Jordan Randolph is getting some awards recognition from this. This is one that I'm very interested in seeing because the first trailer came out and I wasn't really impressed with it. I thought it looked kind of bland. The more I watched the trailer though, the more I kind of fell in love with the feel of this movie. You know, it's kind of like an old-timey film with all that film grain and it takes place around Christmas, so it's going to be like a very good Christmas comfort movie for many people. Even though I did hear it's going to have some very sad moments, you can still find comfort in that kind of movie. And first reactions came out after premiered at film festivals and people are saying it's really great. People are saying it's a great Christmas movie. People are really saying the performances are great. And it really, really interests me to see how well this film will hold up when it officially comes out, to see if everyone will love this as much as some other people. I'm interested in it, and I feel like Paul Giamatti might get some awards recognition from it. So that's why it's at my 4. It's so high because it just premiered at the festivals. So that's why I'm keeping it at number 4. My number 5 is Past Lives. Past Lives is one of the most interesting films this year, I think. And it was one of my favorite films of the year. It still is, but it has dropped down a little bit because we've had Oppenheimer and so many other films. And, you know, Past Lives, I had at the top for so long before I did make videos about these predictions. I was putting it at the top because I felt like it's one of those movies that the Oscars will grab onto, like Everything Everywhere. But Everything Everywhere also had different things going on with it. And Michelle Yeoh, just outstanding performance. Jamie Lee Curtis, you know, people know them a lot. A lot of people don't know these actors in Past Lives. Greta Lee, though, she gave an amazing performance. And Everything Everywhere and Past Lives are both A24, but Everything Everywhere did gross a lot of money. It was in the headlines for so long. With Past Lives, though, it really kind of left the picture. It didn't make a lot of money. I'm not saying that a movie has to make a lot of money to win Oscars, not all the time, but Everything Everywhere had a lot of narrative going with it, and Past Lives, I think, is kind of losing its momentum. Even though I kind of hate to say that, I feel like that's just a simple truth. I'm not going to put it down like in the 9 or 10 spot. I feel like it just fits there in the middle for now to see if it's going to go back up when the Oscars get like sooner. I wonder if it's going to get back up there, but on number 5, I feel like it's safe in the middle for right now. Number 6, though, I got Anatomy of a Fall. This one I don't know too much about because I kind of want to go in blind for this one after I saw first reactions. First reactions are saying like this is a big courtroom drama about like kind of like a murder or just a death. And I'm very interested in this one because I love some courtroom drama. You know, Trial of the Chicago 7 is one of my favorite films of 2020. Some people really hated it, but I loved all the courtroom scenes. These are probably very different movies, but I really don't want to watch the trailer for Anatomy of the Fall. I want to go in as blind as possible. That's why I like entering courtroom drama movies, just going in fully blind. But I've heard some fantastic reviews about this one, and Sandra Hüller is in my top 3 for Best Actress, and I feel like that just guarantees this one a Best Picture spot. I'm just hearing some over the moon reactions. I can't wait to see this one. I'm not sure when this one opens up wide. I feel like it must be maybe November or December, but I can't wait for it. That brings us to 7, which is Barbie. Barbie is one that a lot of people are putting up pretty high. I still think it's going to get a Best Picture nomination, but I don't think it's going to be as high as other people think. It was a big success, and I feel like this is a great film, but I don't think it's Greta Gerwig's best work. I still have it below Little Women and Lady Bird. I think those films are just kind of like almost masterpieces for me, and Barbie is great, but I feel like sometimes it lacks some, like, I feel like the human world stuff lacked, but everything in Barbie Land was simply fantastic on a craftsmanship level and a storytelling level, so I feel like it's safe in that 7 spot. 8 spot, I have Maestro. This is one that's also very interesting. This is Bradley Cooper's next film, and he had an extreme makeover for this film. But this one seemed to get kind of lukewarm reactions. Some people thought it was really great, but mostly I saw just good reactions and some kind of okay reactions out of this one. Same with Ferrari. That's why I don't have Ferrari anywhere on here, because I feel like I've kind of lost hope for that movie, and that movie did not do well. But Maestro got better reviews than Ferrari, but still not amazing reviews like Poor Things and Killers of the Flower Moon. Some people say it like lacked like best story, but they still gave Bradley Cooper some great, positive remarks about his acting, but I feel like at the bottom, number 8, I feel like that one still fits pretty well. Number 9, I put The Color Purple. It hasn't come out yet, hasn't screened for anyone yet, but the trailer, everyone gushes about the trailer. I feel like the trailer looks great. The acting is probably going to be fantastic. The musical parts, fantastic. I feel like it will nag one of those spots. That brings us to probably the most interesting one on this list. Number 10, which is American Fiction, which I just put in here because it did win the award for People's Choice at TIFF. And there's been a lot of talk about this one because whatever wins People's Choice at TIFF usually gets nominated for Best Picture and gets nominated for a lot of other categories. This is Jeffrey Wright in this film. And I feel like this film has a very interesting kind of narrative because it did win People's Choice at TIFF, and I've heard actually a lot of decent things about this one. People say the script is really fantastic, so I probably have to put it in script. So I'm going to leave it at 10 for now. It could go up when I see more reviews from this one and when I actually see it, because I don't think it's coming out until like late December. It's really taken a while for that one to come out, but I'm going to have to put it at 10 because it did win People's Choice. I feel like that's just the best choice for me at this point. I'm not going to put it any higher because it's just the first time knowing about it. I haven't really checked in on this one too much. So that's my top 10. We're going to check in the race now. These are movies that I think could come in if the other movies fall, or these movies are just never going to make it. 11, sadly, I got Across the Spider-Verse, just did not make it in for me. I wish it could have, but we're going to see if that one ever pops back in. It was looking great when it first came out, but we have so many better movies the second half of 2023 when all the awards films come out. I feel like this one might be left out. 12, I got The Zone of Interest. I'm kind of on the fence about this one. It's been getting some rave reviews. This is kind of like the Nazi camp movie where this family is living by a camp. And this film was really dark. I've heard a really somber film, which I get for like what it's about. And I don't think it's going to nab a Best Picture spot, but I feel like the Best Director spot has the best chance. 13, I got Saltburn. This one has been getting some interesting reactions. It's kind of mixed like Babylon. Maybe it could get closer to the top 10 if it comes out and gets better reviews. But right now I got 13. 14, I got Napoleon. I think it's still coming out in November. I don't think this one's getting delayed like Dune. Napoleon, though, I can never tell with Ridley Scott. I don't know if the Academy hates him or likes him a lot because he didn't get nominated for The Last Duel, which I thought was great. So I just don't think he's going to get in for this one. 15, I got Air, another one that sadly probably won't get in, even though I think it's amazing. It's in like my top 15 of the year so far. I loved Ben Affleck's work on this one, but it has fallen, and I don't think that one's going to get in. So that's Best Picture. Let's get to the next category. Best Actress is where we have some big shakeups right now. In the past week, you guys have seen Lily Gladstone switched from Best Supporting Actress to Best Actress, which I feel like is a pretty interesting decision, but I feel like it's the right decision because her role in Killers of the Flower Moon seems to be like a leading actress role. I don't know why she was put in supporting when she's like literally at the front of marketing. and her and Leo are basically the leads of the film, so why would she be supporting? I don't know if it's going to get her the win, though. That's the thing, because I got Emma Stone from Poor Things in at my number one. As I said, this film is getting some rave reactions, and Emma Stone in particular is getting the best reactions. Some people say it's her best role yet, even better than films like The Favorite or La La Land, which was the film that she won for last. I think that was like 6 years ago, so she could probably win this, because 6 years is a long time. Some people win Oscars back to back, but Emma Stone, I feel like this is a big performance for her, because it's like going all out. She's got comedic tones to get, dramatic tones, and oh lord, dude, just from the trailer you can see all different tones that she's taken on. And I feel like this is such an interesting role for her to take on. The Academy might eat that up, which makes her my number one for now. And when I see the film, maybe I'll still feel that way, maybe I won't. Number two, though, is Lily Gladstone. I had trouble putting her from number two or number three. I set it at number two because she's getting the most fantastic reactions out of that film. People say that she's the best part. People say that her performance is making them cry and all that. Very dramatic performance because of what goes on with the Osage. And so I think that her switching from supporting to leading, she was going to easily win supporting. But her switching to leading, I don't see her winning so easily. I see it being so much more competitive in the leading actress, especially this top three, top four. It's really competitive right now, and I just don't see her winning. Emma Stone, maybe the narrative for Lily Gladstone is there, but I go off best performance, and supposedly Emma Stone has one of the best performances of the decade, of the last decade, and all that. So I'm holding Lily Gladstone at 2. Number 3 is Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall. I have not seen really any marketing on this movie, but people are really praising Sandra. She's also in the Zone of Interest for supporting, but I don't have her in there for that. But people are saying that her performance in Anatomy of a Fall is simply terrific. So yeah, I have a hard time with my 2 and 3. Maybe they switch on and off, but right now I have Sandra Hüller in 3. 4, I got Carey Mulligan for Maestro. Some are saying this is really great, like the best performance of the year, but I don't see that from everyone. So Carey Mulligan, I put there. I don't have a lot to really say about Carey Mulligan because we've only seen that first little trailer of that movie, like only a minute and a half, and she hardly really says anything. I have not seen the movie, but people say that her performance is one of the best of the year, so I put her at number 4. Number 5, I put Fantasia Barrino for Color Purple. I feel like The Color Purple is going to get a lot of Oscar nominations. I don't know if they're going to take home any wins, though, for acting. That really interests me, because sometimes the Academy eats up these like musical performances, but sometimes they don't. So I'm getting worried. But that's why I have it at 5 for now, because no one's seen it yet. No one has any reactions. I mean, I still expect it to be good, but I don't know if I expect it to be like amazing. But still, I put her in at the number 5 spot. In the race, though, sadly, I got Greta Lee from Past Lives. She got knocked out of my top 5 because Lily Gladstone came in. So Greta Lee is one of the performances that I think is one of the best of the year so far, because I think she does great in Past Lives with the story that she's given, the script. But man, leading actress and leading actor and supporting, all the actor and actress categories this year are extremely competitive. So Greta Lee getting in there is going to be very difficult, and it might be like an Andrea Riseborough situation where she could get in there for a small movie, even though it's kind of a big different situation, but I feel like some of that's the same. Number 7, I got Margot Robbie for Barbie. I don't really see her getting in. Maybe because the movie makes $1 billion, maybe they'll put her in. I don't really see that for a reason why she would get in. I just don't see her performance really being as amazing as the other 6, that I have above her. Not to fault and say Margot Robbie isn't amazing in the movie. I think she's great in the movie. I just don't think I don't think that she really had the greatest performance in that movie. I don't think that's her greatest performance of all time. And I just don't think see that as an Oscar-winning performance in my eyes. I feel like she has so many other Oscar-winning performances that she didn't win for. But, Barbie, a lot of people have her in their top 5 just because the film made $1 billion. I don't really see it. Maybe later, if the film gains more momentum again, because it already made $1 billion, it can start gaining more momentum for Oscar buzz. Maybe I'll put her in the top 5, but the top 5 is already so strong. I don't know. Maybe is she in your guys' top 5 down below? Let me know because I'm very interested. Number 8 is Kaylee Spaney from Priscilla. This one's getting pretty good reactions. She did win the award, I think, for Telluride, or was it Venice, for Best Actress. So she's getting some great remarks. I didn't really know what to put in my 8, so I put her in my 8. I mean, Priscilla, playing Priscilla is pretty big. Austin Butler got in for Elvis, but this movie is very different. So I just put her in the 8 because I feel like she can maybe kind of go up in the ranks when that movie officially comes out to get more reactions and more buzz coming from, I think this is also coming from A24 too. A24 could get some more buzz. But actress is looking pretty tough right now. All right, Best Actor is one that I'm so interested to talk about. Just like Best Actress, this one has some great performances in here. Number 1, Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer. Come on. If you don't have Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer right now, I don't know what you're smoking, but it's I want some of it because I feel like he's the best performance of the year so far. And I haven't seen any of the fall festival films like I've said, but Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer was so good. Like he owns the whole film. He's in pretty much every single scene. He literally just commands that whole film. It's something I've never seen from him before. I think he did so well with every single scene that he was given. Some people say he holds the same facial reaction, but what do you want my guy's reaction to be when he's having an atomic bomb blow up? You want him to be smiling all the time? No. He literally does so well in this movie. I mean, if you put maybe Leo over him, maybe I could get it, but Cillian Murphy, I feel like he's going to stay my number 1 for a long time. I don't know if he's ever going to switch for me. And I feel like if he does lose this coming March, I feel like that's going to be a big snub, but we're going to see. Number 2 is, of course, Leonardo DiCaprio for Killers of the Flower Moon. Everyone is praising his performance. Like I said, some people say it's his best performance. His best performance for me right now is probably The Wolf of Wall Street. He did so well. I think he should have won an Oscar for that movie. But yeah, I'm going to wait to see this one and see if it's actually his best performance. He looks great in the trailer. His reactions to everything, just his line delivery in any movie that he's in is just utter fantastic. And I don't know, a number 2 spot just seems so great for him right there. What's funny to me with Leonardo DiCaprio is that his movies always get released at the worst time in the worst year when he has like the strongest competition to go against. He literally has to go against Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. That's just hard. You basically just have a Christopher Nolan movie going against a Martin Scorsese movie. That's like the matchup of a decade right there. Paul Giamatti, I got number 3 for The Holdovers. Just like, as I said, in Best Picture, Holdovers getting some great reactions. Paul Giamatti, everyone's saying that he really does turn in a fantastic performance. I feel like Paul Giamatti is one of the most underrated actors. I don't think he gets a lot of praise for some of his like smaller roles. I think he's like great in everything, but we don't talk about Amazing Spider-Man 2 with the Rhino. We don't talk about that one. Everyone's saying that he makes them cry in The Holdovers, so I'm gonna put him in number 3 for that. Number 4, I got Coleman Domingo for Rustin. Rustin's not one that I'm too familiar with, but everyone's saying Coleman Domingo is really great in that film, so I'm putting him number 4, but I feel like my top 3 is really unswitchable until I see these films at the bottom. And Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction, as I said, American Fiction, I had to put it in Best Picture because it won People's Choice. So I think Jeffrey Wright, I think he might get in for Best Actor if that gets in for Picture. If it doesn't get in for Picture, I don't see him getting in for Actor. But Jeffrey Wright is long overdue for Actor nomination in a while. I'm really interested to see this film, to see his performance, because everyone's saying it's really good. But in the race, I had to move down Bradley Cooper for Maestro, since it's not getting as big of reviews as I hoped it would. That doesn't mean that Bradley Cooper can't enter the race in 2 months or so if I see Rustin or American Fiction and I'm like, those performances aren't that great. But Bradley Cooper has to be in 6 for right now. He has to be. I had to push someone down, and I couldn't push down Jeffrey Wright because it won People's Choice. Coleman Domingo, I could maybe see a situation where I push him down and put Bradley Cooper back in. But Paul Giamatti, I'm not going to put him down. Leo, I'm not going to put him down. Cillian Murphy, I'm not going to put him down. 7, I got Joaquin Phoenix for Napoleon. I'm very interested to see if Joaquin Phoenix is going to get awards love for this kind of movie, because he didn't for Beau's Afraid, but Beau's Afraid is it's kind of a disaster for the studio and kind of like audiences on that one. I thought it was decent and good at parts, but his performance was great. But man, that film kind of went down the roller coaster. But Napoleon, I feel like he looks great. I feel like he's going to give a great performance, but we're going to see, all depends on if this SAG strike will end, if he can do some interviews for that one. And 8, I got Barry Keoghan for Saltburn. This one is divisive, as I said, but Barry Keoghan, he's great in everything that he does. Really elevates his performance in every single movie. So I got him on the 8th position, but Best Actor is looking pretty competitive. Best Supporting Actress, like I said, with Leading Actress, it's got a shake up now that Lily Gladstone is not here anymore. But that doesn't mean that we don't have amazing performances that can take over, because we do. Number 1, I got Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. Everyone's saying that her performance here is really Oscar worthy, so I'm happy about her position there. And even in the trailers, I think that she's delivering some really hard lines to the student in here and Paul Giamatti, so she's kind of going to hold this film on her back at some certain points in the film, I'm probably certain of. Number 2, I got Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer. I've been kind of curious if I'm going to keep this one in or not, because if I keep it in, I feel like it makes the most sense, because Oppenheimer is getting such big awards buzz, and it's like the best film of the year to some people. And Emily Blunt has some very big scenes in this movie, especially when she's talking to Jason Clarke. And, you know, I feel like a lot of audiences love that moment. I can for sure bet that the Academy loved those moments. So I'm going to hold her at that number 2 spot for now. Number 3, Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple. As I said, no one's really seen the film so far. Danielle Brooks, though, I think feel like she's amazing, and I feel like she has a chance to really overtake Emily Blunt and Divine Joy Randolph, maybe. But I feel like it would be a big race between Divine Joy Randolph and Danielle Brooks for that award. 4, I got Jodie Foster for Nyad. I've been seeing a lot of people put this in their kind of like Oscar predictions, and I'm not sure about that movie because I don't really know anything about it. I've seen really lukewarm reviews for Nyad, but everyone's saying the performances are great, so I'm gonna hold her at 4 for now. She might have to leave soon though, because that film is getting kind of wrecked on some points. 5, I got Taraji P. Henson for Color Purple. Another Color Purple performance. I feel like, as I said, it's going to get a lot of nominations. It might not take home any wins, though. In the race, I pushed down Viola Davis to 6 for Air, because I don't know if that performance is big enough to really get into the top 5. Top 5 is getting decently competitive. I had Viola Davis in there earlier, but had to take her out. 7, I got Julianne Moore for May December. May December looks like kind of a very performance-driven film, and I think that one is also for Netflix too, so we'll see how that one holds up and see if it really keeps its buzz going or only lasts for like 2 weeks. 8, I got Mara Ferreira for Barbie. She's a great one here. Her performance has one big standout scene, I would say, maybe like 2 big standout scenes, but I don't think she's really in the film as much as I want her to be to really get into that 5. If you think she's going to get into that 5, I don't know, man. That's hard because you got already a big 5 in there. So yeah, I would say right now for Best Supporting, I feel like Divine Joy Randolph has the best performance so far. As according to people, I've seen it at film festivals, but I will say the top 3 is pretty close for me right now. All right, Best Supporting Actor. The time has come. This is probably the most competitive out of the acting categories, in my opinion, because a lot of these are gonna come down to if the Academy likes comedic performances. That's why I have Ryan Gosling for Barbie at number 1, just because he's my favorite supporting actor, like kind of performance of the year. And I'm interested to see if the Academy will like that performance as much as regular audiences do. And you know, I've been switching 1 and 2 back and forth. It could go either way. I don't really have Ryan Gosling that high over Robert Downey Jr. at this point, but I do have him on there just because personal preference. But my number 2 is Robert Downey Jr. You know, he's long overdue, and this performance is probably one of his best. And man, you can see in every single scene that Robert Downey Jr. is in Oppenheimer, it's a fantastic part for him. He nails every single scene, every single line towards killing in that movie. Great performance, and every single reaction that he has in that courtroom scene is just fantastic. Black and white cinematography, amazing right there. He's easily going to get a nomination. It's just going to come down to will the Academy pick him or Ryan Gosling. But we also have Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't know if this performance is going to be big enough for him to get into that top 2 range, because I know in Killers of the Flower Moon the performances from Lily Gladstone and Leo are going to be big enough. But for Robert De Niro, I don't know if he's going to have enough substance in there to get above players like Robert Downey Jr. and Ryan Gosling, because they were in their different films for a long time. So I'll have to see for Robert De Niro to see if he really goes up any higher. But number 4 and 5 are some that I really want to talk about because, as I said, Poor Things is getting a lot of love. Some people are saying that it might get a double nomination for supporting actor, and I'm kind of hopping on that train. I wasn't on that train for too long, but I feel like that might be the train to hop on right now because Mark Ruffalo and Willem Dafoe are getting some great praise for that movie. Because Willem Dafoe, he plays the kind of doctor who created Emma Stone's character, Bella Baxter, kind of like the Frankenstein. And then Mark Ruffalo plays like also kind of like a Ryan Gosling kind of role in this one, like a comedic love interest to Emma Stone's character. So they're both going to be in that film for a long time. I feel like Poor Things is like 2.5 hours. So they're both going to get a lot of screen time for that movie. So I feel like you really do have a chance that you're going to get a double supporting for that movie. That would be really big for that movie. Mark Ruffalo could even move up when I see that film. But yeah, I feel like that one could get a double nomination. In the race, I got Coleman Domingo for Color Purple. It's the Color Purple. It's going to have amazing performances. 7, I got John Magaro for Past Lives. One of my favorite supporting performances of the year. But as I said, I feel like Past Lives has gone to a point where it's lost a lot of momentum, especially John Magaro's campaign. So I don't see him really getting into that top 5. 8, I got Dominic Sessa for Holdovers. I didn't know what to put in the 8 spot, so I put Dominic. I think he plays the student. And, you know, every performance in that movie supposedly is fantastic. So I decided to put him there. I really do feel like if that movie gets a lot more buzz, I feel like he could even move up even higher. But I don't see anything really touching the top 5 right now. If anything changed in the top 5, it would be the Poor Things double nomination. The only thing that would change is that Mark Ruffalo or Willem Dafoe, one of them doesn't get in. Which I would say maybe Willem Dafoe doesn't get in. Because Mark Ruffalo, I feel like he has the bigger role. And I feel like he has the better performance in that film that I've heard. But I really do think it could get a double nomination. But it's probably still between Ryan Gosling or Robert Downey Jr. for the win for that one. Best Director is always a very fun one to talk about because sometimes the Academy can go one way, sometimes they can go another way. Last year it went to the Daniels, but I went for Martin McDonagh. But seriously, those two last year were pretty big competition. This year, I think we got even more competition. Number 1, though, I got Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer. Come on, it's Oppenheimer. Christopher Nolan, some of his best work is in this film, especially with the Trinity test, with the auditorium scene, with the courtroom scenes. It's a lot of great work here, especially some of these big scenes that he has to really capture a lot here with a lot of actors. He has to control a lot of different things in this film and does a lot of practical stuff here. I feel like he's the one to win it or he's the one to lose at that point. Like, if you're not going to give it to Christopher Nolan, who are you going to give it to at that point? Which really takes us to our number 2, which is Yorgos Lanthimos. I pulled the same thing as I did in Picture. I put Poor Things at 2 in Picture and Killers at number 3. So I put Yorgos at number 2 and Martin Scorsese at number 3. I feel like Yorgos is getting a lot more praise than Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese has got his Oscars. Yorgos, I don't think Yorgos has a director Oscar so far. I'm not even sure if he has a nomination, maybe for The Favorite. But this one, he seems to just be going all out for this movie, and I think it all worked for him. It all succeeded. So I think he will nab that 2 spot for me, but I don't see him winning over Christopher Nolan. If he does, I feel like it's because maybe the Academy might like a more of an artsy film than Oppenheimer, which still wouldn't really be a big reason for me. But I see him at 2. Martin Scorsese, as I said, he stays at my 3 because he just delivers a great performance in directing every single film that he has, especially The Irishman. That was great directing, especially if you have a film that's so long, like 4 hours or 3.5 hours. You got to keep that direction going. You got to keep it great throughout the whole movie, which is pretty hard to do sometimes. So I still got him in 3. Number 4, I got Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. I don't have it in Picture, but I have it in Director because everyone's saying the direction is really spectacular. Haven't seen anything for the movie. I don't even think there's a trailer out now, so I don't really have a lot to speak of for that one. Number 5, I got Alexander Payne for The Holdovers. There has been a little bit of controversy over Alexander Payne so far. I'm not really sure what that controversy is. I don't really want to get into it right here, but I do have him in there for The Holdovers because I have The Holdovers so high on Best Picture. A lot of great reactions, and just the film overall seems like a great time and great direction in that one. But I feel like my top 5, I'm not really going to move them right now. I know a lot of people are going to get on me for that, but I feel like that's a great top 5. In the race, though, I got Justine Triet. I'm not really sure if that's how you pronounce her name, but that's for Anatomy of a Fall. It's just a courtroom drama. Those can get a lot of awards recognition or they can get none. So I have her in there for Anatomy of the Fall at number 6. Number 7, I got Greta Gerwig for Barbie. I don't think, as I said, I don't think this is their best direction. I still think Lady Bird and Little Women is better direction than this movie, but I think this movie has a lot of great moments with it in her direction style. So I really had to put her in there in the race. And number 8, I put Celine Song for Past Lives. This is her directorial debut, which means that sometimes the Academy doesn't really pick directorial debuts, even though sometimes they are fantastic films like Past Lives. So I was kind of on the fence about putting her even in the race. But if I was to switch something up at the moment, I would probably put Celine Song over Greta Gerwig, just because I feel like Past Lives is a better film than Barbie. But the direction, I feel like sometimes the direction is very different for films like that. But I feel like my top 5, I feel like it could sit that way. But sometimes, I could see in your guys' predictions down below if you put someone totally different, because it's wide open right now. I feel like 2 spots in Best Director could change. But I feel like the top 3 has to stay there at this point because those reactions to those films are so high. But if you tell me that you have Greta Gerwig or Celine Song or Justine in there, I wouldn't be mad about it. I feel like it's the best director. Whoever gets in there has the best direction. So we're going to see. Sometimes weird movies can win this like the Daniels did. So that's why I got Yorgos so high, because it's a weird film. And I feel like maybe he'll get in. And if he wins over Christopher Nolan, that would be kind of astonishing. But I still have Christopher Nolan on top for Oppenheimer. Best Adapted Screenplay, I got Oppenheimer once again on top. I really did love the script. I think it's one of Christopher Nolan's best scripts of all time. Sometimes his scripts are a little clunky, but I feel like since this is adapted for him, I feel like it's a little bit easier for him to write. So I feel like this is probably the best script because a lot of people already love the film, so they're going to love the script. But I could see that one going down. Sometimes I'm saying Oppenheimer's not going to go down, but I could see that one go down. Number 2, I got Poor Things. It is an adapted script. I didn't know that when I first heard the film, but it is based off a book. I will probably pick up that book before the movie. I'm very interested to see how they adapt this story, this weird story that looks so fascinating. But yeah, since the buzz of Poor Things is so high, I had to put the screenplay up there. Just like with Killers of the Flower Moon, these are going to be my top 3 frontrunners for almost every category, since they're all doing so well at the festivals, and Oppenheimer released and got over 900 million worldwide. I don't think that you could really move these 3 from adapted screenplay. I mean, you could make a decision to say that Oppenheimer's writing is kind of weak at points, but I mean, it holds the film over since you have so many big scenes of dialogue, a lot of dialogue just in there, like not a lot of action really until you get to the bomb. So if you have a movie like that can keep you entertained with a great script, I feel like your script has to get in for a nomination at least. But I could see Poor Things or Killers of the Flower Moon taking that one spot in a couple months to see if things change. The Zone of Interest, seen a lot of buzz around the script and direction, so I kept those 2 in the nomination race. American Fiction, I brought this one into script because people are saying the script is really good and because it won TIFF People's Choice. So I had to put it in actor or script and picture, but I decided to just put it in all 3 until I see it. I feel like that's the safest bet for me so far. And in the race, I got All of Us Strangers. This is the Paul Mescal film, and I forget the other actor who's in it, but it's kind of like a romance film, and I've heard some great reactions on this. I feel like this one is on Metacritic almost in the 90s right now. It started out really high. It's still pretty high. I think this one's still in the 80s, which is really great. The first trailer did come out, but I'm choosing not to watch it. Kind of want to go into this one blind. I feel like this might be the only nomination that this one will get if it gets into that top 5. Because I don't know if the Academy is going to go for this one. But, even though it's getting amazing reactions, I don't know if it's going to get in the top 5. The Color Purple I got 7. It's mostly a musical. I don't really know if it's going to get into a screenplay. If it's mostly like 70% a musical, it's kind of hard to believe for me. Even if it gets like the most buzz reactions when it first comes out. 8, I got Across the Spider-Verse. I don't think the script is really gonna get into the top 5, but I gotta give it a mention at least because they did so well at making the movie. I felt like the screenplay was great, especially at those dialogue scenes between Miles and his parents. I thought everything worked really well, especially the cliffhanger with the script and kind of like the exposition. I liked it a lot. So I had to put it in 8, but I don't see that moving into top 5. I see the top 3 is basically the competition there. Best Original Screenplay has some interesting shakeups. The Holdovers I got number 1 because it's getting some great reactions. Everyone's saying that the script is the best part, which I kind of believe because it mostly revolves around mostly script stuff. There's no action. It's just like one of those movies that you're going to have so much dialogue in there. It's going to be some sad dialogue, dramatic dialogue, comedic dialogue. You're going to have every single corner in there. So I put that number 1 so far. But original screenplay, I think like that could go to anyone right now. Past Lives, I have that in there because I was really just when I saw it, the screenplay works so well for me. Every single piece of the dialogue I really connected with, and how the characters talk to each other. I really did love that part of the screenplay. And I really did enjoy that. I could have took an hour more of just these characters talking to them about past lives and all that, their connections with each other. That's what I think is built on a great screenplay, is just how long it can keep you entertained. Barbie at 3, though. Warner Bros. Decided just for themselves to put Barbie in original screenplay. I'm not going to know for this one, but I feel like the Academy isn't going to let that slide. This is an adapted movie. It's not original because it's adapted off of a product. And I don't think that means just because it's an original Barbie story doesn't mean that it's an original character. I feel like you have to have all original characters in this movie for it to be an original screenplay, because you're taking an adapted toy line and company and making it a movie. That has to go into adapted, right? I feel like the Academy has to make that change to make this really feel right for me. But right now, Warner Bros. Put it in original, so it's at 3. I love the screenplay, but it's not going to win original in my thought. And if it gets switched to adapted, it's not going to win adapted at all. Number 4, Anatomy of a Fall, courtroom drama. Courtroom dramas do really well, but I don't know if it's going to win. Depends how, all the Academy reacts to it. But I feel like this one could go up even higher when it comes out, because courtroom dramas do really well. Has some tight script in there. Saltburn, I don't really have a lot of inside knowledge on the script for this one. Divisive, maybe. Sometimes you have films like this that just get in out of nowhere, so I put Saltburn in there. In the race, I got Maestro. If I was to switch one of them, I would put Maestro at 5, Saltburn at 6. But it's just a last-second decision that I made to move Maestro down to number 6, because that one got lukewarm reactions. Some great, mostly all good. Number 7, I got May December. This is going to be a big kind of like dialogue-drawn movie, I think, with our 2 main performances. And 8, I got Air. That one had a lot of great dialogue in it. Love the story. That's kind of like an adapted movie if you think about it. But still, I feel like that one still makes sense. I'm never really believing in my number 8 when I pick them, but still I feel like Air has to go in there. Yeah, I feel like Best Original Screenplay is mostly open. Top 5 is kind of open for there. The only ones that I don't see moving are Holdovers, Past Lives, and Anatomy of a Fall. I feel like Barbie and Saltburn could move, especially because Barbie pretty much needs to go back to adapted because it is an adapted screenplay. But we're going to see. Right now, I got the Holdovers winning it, though. Next up, we got Cinematography. I'm basically going to go off trailers for ones that I haven't seen. I feel like that's just kind of fair, and reviews that I've seen. So trailers, you can see a lot of great shots. They show you those shots to get you to go watch the movie. And, I recognize great cinematography from trailers, especially Oppenheimer, which I have as my number 1 from Hoytema. I don't think he's won an Oscar yet, which is so surprising. I feel like he kind of got snubbed for Interstellar. He should have won for Interstellar. I don't know how he didn't win for that movie. Don't ask me how, but he's back at it again. I feel like Nope also last year was great cinematography, but here he brought it all here. Oppenheimer has some amazing cinematography, especially during the Trinity scene. Especially just in those tight corners when he's shooting him, when Hoyta is shooting Cillian Murphy just laying on the bed, and when he's just thinking. Crazy shot just to go that far in on his face. Love those shots though. I loved every single shot in this movie, especially when they're in Los Alamos Ranch. Those shots were amazing. All the outside shots, I feel like Hoyta is just upgrading his game for this movie, and he's going for that Oscar. I don't really see him losing this one. I feel like this one is a big lock for him at this point, but maybe something comes down the line and I see it and I'm like, whoa, this cinematography is off the charts. That brings us to the number 2, Poor Things. Poor Things I never even had in my top 5 before it screened at Telluride. But people are coming out of Telluride saying this is some great cinematography. You got black and white cinematography in there. It's very interesting though. I don't think this one is even shot in IMAX though. Oppenheimer did have black and white IMAX cinematography for the first time ever. Has those IMAX shots, but Poor Things I don't think has any IMAX. But Poor Things, people are saying, from the trailer, look at that cinematography. Go back to the trailer and come back here. And you can't tell me that cinematography doesn't look breathtaking. every single one of Yorgos' films, I think, has some great cinematography. Cinematography, the favorite. Oh my god, so amazing. When they use the fisheye lens for his films, I feel like it just makes it look so much better. Just using that simple fisheye lens, and it has some of that in Poor Things trailer. The trailer looks outstanding. Cinematography, every single shot. God, it looks crazy. Number 3, I got Killers of the Flower Moon. The cinematographer that's working on this, I'm pretty sure mostly exclusively works with Scorsese. And you know, Scorsese's films always have fantastic cinematography. Cinematography of this one looks insane because you got the Osage land. Just every single aerial shot of that looks great. Then you got the town shots. I just love the cinematography of that movie already from every single trailer. I've seen a lot of footage of that movie actually. Even if it's 3.5 hours, I've seen a decent amount of footage, but we still got more to see. So I got that one in at my number 3. 4, I got Maestro. Maestro, I feel like this trailer looked beautiful. Even though it was only a minute and a half, I will say that trailer looked beautiful, especially with the aspect ratio. That brings me to number 5. Saltburn also has that interesting aspect ratio. Oh, that film sold me, though, on its visuals. Cinematography is outstanding on that film, especially when they're at, like, the Saltburn estate. I feel like the cinematography just upgrades right there. And all, like, the neon lights that are going on right now, how everything is captured in every scene. So, yeah, I feel like the trailers of those ones show me some great shots. So, those are my top 5. But 6, 7, and 8, we got some interesting competition here. Last year, even, we had some interesting competition. The Academy picked some really interesting picks for cinematography last year. I was very surprised. Maybe they'll pull some weird picks this year. That's why I got Zone of Interest at 6. We got some great shots in that movie, I heard. So, I'm putting that one at 6. The color purple, you can see from the trailer, everything looks fantastic. The sets, the shots of everything look great. You know, you're capturing everything in that movie, all the actors, all the sets, everything going on. At 8, I have this movie called El Conde. This one is on Netflix. I haven't watched it. I've seen some footage though. But I think this one is also black and white too. But I feel like every single shot in that film looks great from the stills that I've seen online. I will probably get around to watching that before the end of this month, hopefully. But yeah, I've heard that one has great cinematography. So I'm putting that one in the race. I feel like the real race here is Poor Things or Oppenheimer, especially from those shots from Poor Things. Maybe that could overtake Oppenheimer. I don't see it though. I feel like Oppenheimer has that clear number 1 in the bag so far. Best costume design, a lot of you are going to disagree with me, but I got Poor Things at number 1. I don't have Barbie, I got Poor Things. That's because everyone is really talking about this movie. Like, they're saying that it could get maybe 10 nominations or more. And they're saying the costumes are outstanding. And I can agree with them. From the stills that I've seen on like IMDb or just Google, just what Emma Stone is wearing and like Willem Dafoe and the trailer. Oh my gosh, those costumes are to die for. Just look at that poster. Look at some of the dresses that Emma Stone is wearing in that trailer. Great. Barbie, I used to have Barbie at number 1, but now I got it at number 2 because I feel like some costumes are a little too similar to the other costumes, even though it has some different costumes in here. And how I love that scene in Barbie where Ken threw the costumes off like the Barbie mansion and they like spun out like they would in like Barbie Land and you could see them. So yeah, I feel like Barbie sits at number 2 because I feel like some costumes are way too similar for the Barbies and the Kens. While I feel like Poor Things has every costume is very different. You know, I feel like every costume, you could just see so much detail in those. And I feel like they all just work, especially because it's like a period piece somewhat. And I feel like the Academy eats up period pieces, costumes, and set designs. So those are my top 2 right now. I feel like Poor Things is sticking at number 1 for me. Number 3, though, I got Killers of the Flower Moon. You got all those Osage costumes. I feel like they all look great. I feel like they capture the time of this movie very well. Leo's looking great. Every single costume's looking great, standing out. What I think is good costume design is if your costumes really stand out in the film. Sometimes costumes in movies don't stand out. They just look like clothes. And, you know, sometimes that works for the movie, but if you're going for an Oscar, you got to stand out with your costumes, you know, because something like a Black Panther, all those costumes stood out. That's why that one won in those kind of categories. So, yeah, your costumes got to stand out. I feel like Killers of the Flower Moon in those trailers that I've seen, costumes have stood out. That brings us to the color purple. Costumes are really standing out there. They're so bright. Everything's going on in that film. But I feel like some of those kind of land under, they're kind of all the same costume. In some aspects, they kind of all look the same, while Killers of the Flower Moon have a lot of different costumes and Poor Things have a lot of different costumes. 5, I got Wonka. I did not know what to put in number 5. I could have brought in Oppenheimer, Napoleon, but I put in Wonka because it's a Willy Wonka film and he's wearing some interesting costumes, but I feel like kind of that movie is a little too gray for me. at points. I wish it was more colorful, so I feel like that one maybe could miss, but I'm just trying to be nice to Wonka and give it one nomination. So I don't know. I'm putting that one number 5. In the race, number 6, I got Oppenheimer. Sometimes I feel like Oppenheimer has some of the same clothes and they're all like gray, but I guess that's what they wore, when they're in Los Alamos. So, Oppenheimer though has a lot of different costumes, especially for the period piece that it's in. So I don't know. I would put Oppenheimer over Wonka just because Wonka looks a little too gray for me at this point. The trailer hasn't really sold me. Only Timothée Chalamet's performance sells me for that movie. Everything else just looks okay or a little weak for me. Number 7, I got Maestro. Maestro, I've only seen a minute and a half of it, so I couldn't really say much, but I really do like the look of some of the costumes in that movie. 8, Napoleon. I actually wish I moved Napoleon up a little bit more because I feel like that one has some great costumes, especially what Joaquin Phoenix is wearing and Vanessa Kirby. So, I wish I could have moved that one up a little higher, but at this point, my top 5, I feel like they have the most costumes that stand out the most, even though some of them are a little similar. I feel like those are the brightest costumes, one that stand out. It kind of reminds me of movies like Elvis from last year that had some great costume designs where everything everywhere. This kind of reminds me. I forget if Everything Everywhere won costume design last year. I'm not sure if it did, but Poor Things reminds me of that movie. It reminds me of a weird movie that the Academy might take in and just really give that movie a lot of wins. So I'm not really gonna say it's gonna get all those wins, but it reminds me of a weird movie like Everything Everywhere that could. So I think Poor Things maybe could. I think costumes on the trailer just look absolutely terrific. So I got Poor Things as number 1 for right now. Production design, I got Barbie for number 1. This is the only. Actually, I have another one, but this is the big one that I have Barbie in for number 1 because the sets are absolutely fantastic. I think they built most of them, and there's even a story I remember that they said they ran out of pink paint, like there's a national shortage of pink paint going around. That's hilarious, I think, because they just made everything pink in Barbie Land. Barbie Land looks fantastic. Then you go to the real world, everything looks a little too plain because, they're filming. They don't really have any sets in the real world. But Barbie Land looks great. Everything in the Barbie Land, it's all different, all shiny, all cool, all pink, all blue, all that, all white. Everything looks great, especially when she's walking through her house and all that. You have everything going on. I feel like that's really the winning movie for production design. At number 2, though, close behind is Poor Things. If you've seen the trailer, you can see everything different that's going around. You even have those shots in the footage of when Willem Dafoe is kind of in his house, and he's got lots of different cylinders going along, Frankenstein things happening in there. So you're gonna have a lot of different really weird stuff in that movie, as I said. So you're comparing like Barbie, which is like a normal kind of movie at some points, to Poor Things, a very weird movie with very weird sets. So maybe the Academy would like that more than Barbie, but I still got Barbie on top. But number 3, I got Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer has some great sets. They're basically all sets and they're basically all real life sets because there's basically no CGI in that movie, so you're not really going to get any green screen for that one. But I don't really see any sets in that film that are as big as like Poor Things or Barbie to really put that one in the top 2. Then we got Killers of the Flower Moon. It's also going to be a big film. And if I have it in picture that high, I'm going to put it in production design. But I had to put it below those 3 because I don't think it's going to be as big. The color purple, just look at those sets in that trailer. You can see they're all built really nice. They're all really, I think they're really, I don't know if you could say they're all like big. In scale, I think they are pretty big. I'm just going to wait to see the movie though. But if I was to change something on the top 5, I'd put Color Purple above Killers of the Flower Moon because Color Purple seems to have better production than that movie at some points. And The Color Purple is a musical, musicals are really built on production. So you're kind of building those sets and you're kind of wanting everyone to see how great those sets are. So that's why I put The Color Purple in there. In the race though, I got Napoleon in there. Sometimes in the trailer for Napoleon, I can't tell if it's sets or if it's the green screen or the volume that they're using. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing for my eyes that I can't tell the difference, but I think like Napoleon at least has many sets in there because I know that Ridley Scott loves to use like the real sets. I know he's not a big fan of like all this green screen, like 80% in the movie. So I would assume that he uses real sets in Napoleon for a decent bit. So I put it in number 6. I don't think it's going to get into my top 5 though. Wonka, as I said, it probably has some nice sets, but it's all looking gray. I don't know if that's something that they changed the color on the film while editing, or that's how they filmed it, but I'm kind of disappointed that it's not more colorful. If it was, I would probably have it maybe in top 5, but it's not. Asteroid City, though, is one that I really do like the production on that movie, but sometimes I don't know if the Academy really loves Wes Anderson or hates him or is in the middle. This one's kind of lost momentum, I think, for me and for a lot of other people, but I really did love the production design in Asteroid City. I think it's one of Wes Anderson's best production design wise. I still think Grand Budapest Hotel looks the best and feels the best, but I think Asteroid City has a lot of great sets in there, and I love what's going on with that movie, but I feel like it's just lost so much momentum that I don't see that one entering the 5. I feel like Barbie and Poor Things are definitely the front runners for production design. Best editing, we're going to make this one quick because I'm not big on the editing standpoint. I didn't really grow up or learn about the editing standpoint as much as some other standpoints in film, but I can notice it. Like Oppenheimer has some great editing moments in it, especially when you're looking at like the quantum realm type of stuff in that one. So I would say that's really our front runner here. Poor Things, put it that high. Killers of the Flower Moon, they're all that high because they're all getting the best reactions. The Holdovers also. Anatomy of a Fall, courtroom drama. Courtroom dramas always have some great editing in there, so I will put that in there. Ferrari in the Race, it's a sports movie, it's a car movie. You got to have some great editing in those movies to keep the audience entertained. Barbie, number 7. Feels like it makes the most sense. I don't see it coming in number 5. Napoleon, number 8. Kind of a big action film. Some action films get in the best editing, but I just don't see Napoleon really going any higher. But still, no one's seen Napoleon yet, so maybe Napoleon's going to be like the best film of the year. I just don't see that happening, and I feel like the Academy just isn't going to vote for Ridley Scott a lot anymore. I don't know why, but Napoleon, I got an 8. Oppenheimer, I think this is winning for best editing. Best sound is one I'm very interested with because Oppenheimer has a lot of realistic sound in here, especially with the quantum realm stuff, as I said, in best editing. The sound of that, just amazing. Just if you've seen Oppenheimer in IMAX, the sound of that movie is absolutely crazy. Especially with the Trinity sequence, the bomb. Oh my goodness. The sound of that movie goes hard. And I feel like the sound, just what they did for the sound of that movie is amazing. Killers of the Flower Moon is one that I have at number 2, but I could switch it to number 3. But I think Killers of the Flower Moon is going to have some great sounds, with the drums of the Osage, big explosion that happens up in the trailer. I don't know. Maybe it gets in there, but I'm pretty sure it's going to get in there. Across the Spider-Verse is one that's very wacky, but I feel like it really owns its sounds. There's a lot of crazy different stuff going on in that film, and I'm pretty confident it can get in for this one. The Killer, this is a big action film, big shooting kind of film. I feel like this one could get in. Ferrari, big car film, just got a lot of cars in here, got a rev them engines, got that one in there. In the Race, got The Color Purple, maybe get in there, don't know. The Creator, though, on the other hand, this one's getting a lot of great reviews. Could have a lot of great sounds in there, got a lot of weird things happening, weird moments, because there's like AI, robots, and all that. And John Wick Chapter 4, it's like The Killer, an action film. There's a lot of great stuff happening in that film. That's just kind of like me hoping for that to get in, but I don't think that's going to get in. Maybe, but I don't think so. John Wick 4, one of the best films of the year, but it's not going to get any love at the Oscars, even though I loved it. But I really did love that film a lot. But yeah, my top 5 best sound, I feel like that's pretty safe right now, but I feel like Oppenheimer is easily going to take that one. Best visual effects is also a pretty interesting one right here, because The Creator never was in my number 1 until the big reviews came out for this movie just a couple weeks ago. This one is getting some rave reactions. Some people are saying it's their favorite sci-fi film like the last 5 years, which is kind of weird to say because you just had Dune Part 2 come out not last year, like 2 or 3 years ago. So that's weird to say, but from the trailer, the visual effects of The Creator looks absolutely stunning. I think it's made for like an $80 million budget. The robot heads look kind of weird, but they work so well, you can't even tell like it's VFX wise. And I feel like this one works a lot because it's from Gareth Edwards. He knows how to handle VFX because he did Rogue One, which is one of the best visually looking Star Wars films that there is. So I feel like The Creator, I mean, that's the front runner for me right now. The only one that I could see beating it at the moment would be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But at the same point, I don't know if the Academy really is getting tired of these Marvel movies, because you had like so many Marvel movies in the past 2 years. Maybe it's from the pandemic, but they've just looked so visually like uninteresting. You could see the green screen in so many scenes. The VFX just doesn't look solid. Just look at Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Some of that, the volume, the green screen visuals, it just looks so gross. But then you go to Guardians 3, the visuals look insane. Everything looks great. You know, you're in space the whole movie. You got some very, very interesting creatures in here. Groot's new design, it's a fully CGI. I feel like that film is really great. The visual effects are some of Marvel's best, I think, in the last three to 5 years. So I think that one's a big front runner. Rebel Moon, though, Zack Snyder's new film. Zack Snyder always uses a lot of VFX, but I feel like in his films, a lot of VFX works, and you can really see that he spends a lot of time with his crew on making the VFX look so realistic and stand out. And from the trailer, I feel like every single VFX shot really stood out, really looked real. And, you know, I feel like that's what it takes to get into VFX, for your VFX to really stand like it's real. You know, it has to look really real. So I put that one in there. Across the Spider-Verse, it has some visual effects moments, so I'm going to put it in there. Dungeons and Dragons, I'm holding out hope for this movie because it really does have a lot of great visual effects moments, especially when they're doing all these like weird things, turning into animals. One of the characters like turns into many different animals. They go through a mirror. It has a lot of cool moments in this movie when they're fighting too. In the race, I got Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. You know, this one has a lot of visual effects moments that you wouldn't notice in the film, but they're there just behind a lot of different effects. I mean, it's mostly all practical somewhat, but you still got to make those visual effects for like the mountain that Tom Cruise is jumping off of. The Little Mermaid, I'm going to put this one in because it's a Disney film. The Academy kind of eats up Disney sometimes, but hates Disney other times. But I really like the visual effects of Little Mermaid. The underwater stuff was a little weak, but I think Ursula looked great. I feel like Ariel looked great. Her little fin, her tail. Some of the VFX looked a little on the iffy side, but I will say at least 80% of the visuals in that movie looked pretty good. In 8, I got Transformers Rise of the Beast. It doesn't look visually as stunning as the original Transformers films, so I'll keep that one there. But, you know, I feel like the top 5 looks good. I can maybe see one movie moving. But the Creator and Guardians, I feel like those are their biggest front runners because they look the best and they feel the best and they like feel the most realistic. Best score. This is one that I always like to talk about because scores of a movie, I feel like they work a lot, but I feel like what makes a score work also a lot is if you can really listen to it on its own without watching the movie. Sometimes a lot of people disagree with me on that point, but I feel like that's what kind of makes a great score, that you don't have to watch the movie to really enjoy the score. But sometimes I feel like it's different, you know, you really need the score along with the movie. But I feel like Christopher Nolan's scores always go well with the movie or without the movie. That's what I say with Oppenheimer. Ludwig Göransson is behind the score, and I feel like this is his time to win because I don't see any score really taking his score down at this moment. From the movies that I've seen and from the movies I've yet to see, I just don't feel like any other movie will take that down for score. Because even the first reactions of something like Killers of the Flower Moon or Poor Things, I don't see anyone saying the score is better than Oppenheimer. So I'm still going to keep Oppenheimer at number 1 because the score, man, everyone is gushing about that score. I'm still gushing about the score. Some certain songs in that movie just hit so hard, especially when you're not watching the movie. I can just put it on. Can you hear the music? Some of the best music in like the past 5 years. Holy crap. Number 2, though, I got Across the Spider-Verse. Daniel Pemberton, I think, is the guy who is behind this score. Some of the score is absolutely fantastic. He used a lot of different elements in here. I think he used like a duck in one of the scenes. But yeah, I love the score in this movie. It's a weird score. It really is. So it's going to be interesting if the Academy likes it. But it works a lot for the movie. But it's a very hype soundtrack, I would say. And it's got a lot of different instruments in there. It kind of reminds me of something like Babylon had a lot of different instruments. They're very different scores, but something reminds me of that. I don't know if the Academy will put that in there for a win, but I still got Oppenheimer above that. 3, you got Killers of the Flower Moon. Come on, it's getting all the rave reactions. You got to put it in there. Martin Scorsese films always have great scores. 4, I got Poor Things. I never had this even in the top 10, but everyone's saying the score is really great. So I'll put it there for now. I mean, I'm not going to put it any higher because I really haven't seen it. I don't really know any songs from it right now. I haven't heard any like sample scores from it, but some of them I have. 5, I got Past Lives. I'm kind of losing it for this one. I really like the score in first watch, but it really hasn't stuck with me on those other watches. So I have it in top 5 still though. 6, The Zone of Interest. People have said that the score is pretty good on this one. 7, Elemental. I think this score is simply fantastic. I don't think the Academy is going to bite for 2 animated scores. even though I'd love them to. But I still hold back Elemental, still leave it in the 6-7 spot though, because I love that score. Oh my goodness, it's like a majestic score, kind of like a calming score. Really do love that one. 8, I got The Killer. I mean, I don't know yet for that one. Venture movies usually have a great score, so I'm just gonna leave it at 8 for now. But still, I think this is Ludwig's score to win. I feel like this is his Oscar to win for Oppenheimer. I don't see anything beating Oppenheimer for score. Lastly, we're gonna talk about best original song. I'm not really good at the original song one, so I just put in three that I know so far. I'm Just Ken for Barbie is the one I want to win. I feel like it's the one that should win because it's the one that really meant a lot to a lot of people, and it really is the most popular song, and it's the one that just Ryan Gosling went all out for this movie, and I feel like it's the best song in the movie. What Was I Made For? It doesn't really go all out there. I feel like this is just this is really an Oscar baity song, I would say. It's really bait for the Oscars. I wouldn't really put that over I'm Just Ken. I'm Just Ken has a lot more going for it, also production wise. That song goes really hard production wise. And this Wish from Wish, I feel like Wish is going to get one in there. Maybe The Color Purple could also get one in there, but I only have 3 so far because I don't really remember half the songs from this year except I'm Just Ken. I feel like that one is our clear winner. So yeah, those are my Oscar predictions for September. Leave your Oscar predictions down below in the comments. I can't wait. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll be back for Oscar predictions next month, October, November, December, January, February, all the way until March for when the Oscars come out. But if you guys enjoyed, make sure you like this video and come back if you did enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.